I'm with Gidon Ariel from Root Source. Now, Gidon, Israel attacked Iran over the weekend after Iran attacked Israel. How successful do you think was the strike?
First of all, it's nice to see you, or at least hear you, Paul. Israel has been fighting a war on seven fronts for the past year. Of course, Israel's been fighting wars for the past 78 years or something like that. But this war, I think that Netanyahu has made a decision that we are not going to just enter another cycle of violence and come back in a year or two or three. We've seen that he is really going after Hamas in the Gaza Strip and all over the world. And he's certainly going after Hezbollah in Lebanon. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I'm sure that you talked to somebody about the amazing pager attack that up until this day, I don't think that Israel has taken responsibility for, but I think it's pretty clear that nobody else could have pulled this off. But both Hamas and Hezbollah are proxies, the phrase that we even use in Hebrew, of Iran. And therefore, in order to really conclude any attacks that are going to be happening to us, then we need to go after what we call the head of the snake. And I think that the fact that Israel was able to send hundreds or certainly over 100 attack planes over 1,000 miles away, including refueling airplanes, and attack exactly what we wanted to and succeed in those attacks, then I think that there is no way that we could say that this was anything but a success. We came back, all of our pilots and other soldiers that went there, not only pilots, of course, navigators and etc., all of them came back safe and sound. Two things that I was very, very impressed by was, number one of the members of the chief of staff of Israel, not the chief of staff himself, but one of his top range generals actually participated in the attack. Can you imagine? We're talking about a general, a top general in the Israeli army, going into the front line of a very dangerous activity. So that was really incredible, I think. And we also saw that there were 4 female pilots who participated as well. I'm not sure if they were pilots or navigators or what, but the very fact that Iran was attacked by females, I don't have to tell you how the Iranian Muslim are very much upset that they were actually defeated by women. So from those perspectives, this was a tremendously successful attack on behalf of Israel, and all of us over here were very, very happy that we did exactly what we were hoping to do.
What targets did Israel hit?
Off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, we hit the attack batteries, those tools that, or spaces and places that Iran had used to attack us. And we also attacked the Katbam, the UAV, and other ammunition factories. So they will not be able to attack us for a good long time. I think I heard at least a year or two. Obviously, they'll be able to use some of the tools and ammunition that they have ready, but they won't be able to create new ones. But the most important thing here is that Israel attacked and succeeded in obliterating the radars that Iran would use to be able to see if Israel would attack them again. In other words, right now, I believe I saw somebody said that Iran's airspace is like a highway that anybody can just go on. It's not even a toll road. Israel can just go in and go out freely. So that is incredible what we've done. You might be about to ask, what about the nuclear facilities and the oil facilities that not everybody, but many people were talking about were the targets that Israel could have shot? Is that one of your questions?
It is.
Well,
Yeah, Netanyahu has constantly warned about Iran's nuclear ambitions. Would this have been a good opportunity to take out the nuclear program now?
so Netanyahu is fighting, like I said before, on numerous fronts, 7 fronts at the same time. I will definitely mention that it's not only Netanyahu. Netanyahu is the not the chief of staff, but he is the guy in charge of everything. But Israeli military is at very high motivation and skill. So with the Israeli Air Force and the Israeli Army and the Israeli Navy and everybody, and the back end, all of the people on the home front, we're also very, very much part of the success of what is going on. And I will also, of course, mention God himself is on our side. But one of the things is that when you're in a war, then you have to be very careful that you don't escalate it too much, because nobody, certainly not democracies, want to go into a total world war. So you have to make sure that you hit the enemy in a place where it'll hurt him, but not in a way that he will respond in a way that will make it escalate into places where nobody really wants to go. So by not hitting the nuclear facilities, which it's questionable, I remember hearing that after the Ayatollahs saw how Israel was able to attack Iraq's nuclear facilities, we're talking way back in 1981, and also Syria's nuclear facilities, which was probably about, I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that. I understand, not that I'm privy to any inside information. I understand that Iran has made sure to dissipate its nuclear facilities in numerous places and also down underground. So it's not like that Israel could attack one place and in one very well-placed bombardment could obliterate Iran's nuclear threat. I don't think that could happen. So by doing this two-step, by first obliterating Iran's chances of defending itself against a future attack against its nuclear facilities, I think that was a brilliant move on the part of Israel. As far as Iran's oil facilities, Iran, I believe, is responsible for, I don't remember the number offhand, probably about certainly 10% of the world's oil, but maybe closer to 50%, and for all I know, even closer to 90%. I don't remember the numbers. But even if it's only responsible for 10% of the world's oil, if Iran's oil resources will be hit, even though it is selling oil to not the West, but the Eastern countries, then they're going to have to get their oil from somewhere. And that means that oil, because of the laws of supply and demand, the price of oil is going to go up in Western countries as well. So even though that would be a very good, very high quality target of Israel towards Iran, it would still make the rest of the world angry at us also, because ultimately everybody would be hit in their wallet. So I think that one day Israel is going to do that. Maybe not. Maybe we'll be able to conclude this war against the Ayatollahs in Iran, and then Iran will turn into a Western democracy, as it was before the Ayatollahs took over in the late 70s. But at this point, I think that, as I discussed before, Israel has done a perfect job over here. All the external pressures that we've had, read the United States, have come out and said, you did a very good job, Israel, not too much and not too little. And I think that that is what is going to help us in the immediate future, in the near future, for bringing about a conclusion to the war, both on the Iranian front and on its proxies front, primarily Lebanon and the Gaza Strip, and frankly also in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, where there are Palestinian enemies as well that are funded by Iran. So altogether, full disclosure, I'm a member of the Likud, Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud leadership party. I'm a member of the Central Committee of that party, and I think that Netanyahu is doing an excellent job, and I can only continue to pray that he will continue to do such an excellent job.
Do you think that Israel has its arms tied by the Biden administration?
Like pretty much everybody else, I get my information from the social media that I respond to and that I watch and listen to. And from what I'm seeing and hearing, it seems that there is pressure being put upon Israel and Netanyahu from Biden. But I think that Netanyahu, as he has in the past, has figured out a way to keep Biden or any American administration that is not wholly positive towards Israel at arm's length and feeding the media the kind of words that make it sound like the American administration is successful in pressuring Israel to keep Israel from doing that which would be bothersome to the United States government. But on the other hand, also doing what we need to do. I'm reminded by when I'm remembering when Obama became president, there was a lot of pressure on Netanyahu to talk about and really accept the concept of the two-state solution. And in fact, he did that. He did that at a speech and an address at Bar Ilan University, which is a right-wing leaning university in Israel. And that got all of us right-wingers very upset. What are you talking about? You're the prime minister and you're talking about a two-state solution that is a death knell for Israel, not a good idea. But the fact is that happened, about 20 years ago? And there's no two-state solution going on yet. So on the one hand, Netanyahu sometimes says things that gets people upset, but doesn't do them. So he basically just got people upset without actually doing what he said that he would do. On the other hand, that little bit of upsetness on the side of the people to his right is worth it if he can also not do what we don't want him to do. I don't know if I made myself clear enough, but that is the magic of Netanyahu the magician, of managing to keep all of his friends and enemies at a long enough distance for him to get done, which he, in his assessment of the long game, is actually succeeding in doing, it seems to me.
Now, this attack happened early Saturday morning on Shabbat. So did you not get to hear about it till Saturday night?
That is a great question. I live in a small religious community. Nobody in our community, in principle, listens to the radio or any news resources. But there is one gentleman who happens to be a low-ranking general. He's, I think, a Sgan Aluf, which is I think it's a 2-star general. I don't know exactly. Brigadier, I don't know what he's called. Anyway, he always shows up to our Saturday night prayer service, which we hold a few minutes after the Sabbath goes out, carrying his cell phone. And at the end of the prayer service, then he tells us what happened that Shabbat. This past month has been a month full of holidays, of course. And so we heard from him about when Sinwar Yahya Sinwar was eliminated. We heard about when Israel did other things. In general, some people, I don't know about everybody, if they don't have a cell phone open somewhere in the privacy of their own home, I try to keep my Sabbath day holy, as we read about in this week's portion of Genesis, that God sanctified the seventh day, and so should we. And so I try to keep it quiet. And let's put it this way, things happen whether or not I'm listening to the radio on Saturday anyway.
Do you feel that Israel is fighting for its life with fighting on 7 fronts? And are you fearful for the future?
I think that Israel tragically is fighting for its life at all times. We were fighting for our lives at the beginning of the Independence War back in 1948. And while we did have end of belligerence soon thereafter, I believe it was in Rhodes or in Cyprus, there was a talk between Israel and the other countries. We did not have peace, and they returned and attacked us again and again over these 70 years. And now we're facing harder enemies. But as I'm sure all of your listeners know, we have God on our side. And we've seen it in spite of the left-wing leaning media in Israel, as well as all over the world, that doesn't talk about this so much. The general population of Israel is very much a population of people with faith, people who believe. And we do not believe that we can just sit back and let God fight for us, as he did when we left Egypt. But now we are in the land of Israel as he had planned. And part of his plan is that we should prepare for war, but hold on to our faith. So yes, Israel is fighting for our life. We Israelis are fighting for our lives, but we are not fearful. Lo ira ra, I will not fear evil, for I know that God is with me.
You have family. Does this war affect you personally?
My son-in-law is a member of a military engineering corps unit, and he is stationed up north. I don't know if he is stationed in Lebanon or if he is stationed in one of the staging areas. Right now, I visited my daughter in her home about a half an hour drive from here, and I saw that he was home, so he got off a few days. But we are praying for him. And of course, we are praying for all of our friends and relatives. And like I like to say, Israel is a family pretending to be a country. All of Israelis are our relatives. And tragically, even though, of course, the Israeli attack on Iran is still in the international and Israeli headlines, unfortunately, yesterday we had a very tragic day of battles in Lebanon. About 11 Israeli soldiers were killed, two of whom one of those soldiers have 8 children, another has 12 children, and another has 10 children. So these are absolute tragic situations. Of course, we're talking about soldiers in the reserve forces. So these are people who are in their mid and late 40s who are leaving everything. They're leaving their homes, they're leaving their wives, they're leaving their children, they're leaving their jobs, and they are going out to fight to protect and defend the people of Israel. This is truly, they all believe that this is what they are there for. And we have a phrase in Hebrew, lamut al kiddush Hashem, to die while sanctifying the name of God. When Israel fights a war, then it is sanctifying the name of God, because this is God's war. And I do believe that virtually all Israelis agree with me on that.
What is your prayer today for Israel at this time?
I think that I said it very clearly. May we continue to be in God's favor. May we continue to believe in God and remember that He is the one who fights battles together with His long extended arm, which is the Israel Defense Forces. May Israel suffer no more losses. May there be a miraculous ultimate conclusion to this war. May all of Israel's enemies put out the white flag and study war no more, as we shall see in the miraculous messianic days. And may speedily the hostages, which the horrific Hamas terrorists and their friends took hostage over a year ago, may we see them returned very quickly to their home in Israel. Amen.
You are a pioneer in Jewish-Christian relations. What's your website for people who'd like to know more about the work that you do?
Thank you. The website that I run is called Root Source. That's root-source.com. That's root like a tree and source like water. Root Source is a platform for pro-Israel Christians and Jews to engage with each other, primarily by studying the concepts, ideas, and texts that we have in common. And I'm very grateful to you, Paul, for having me on from time to time. And I encourage your listeners to reach out to me, Gidon Ariel, Root Source. You can just Google Gidon Ariel, Root Source, find a way to contact me. I'm on all social media, and email me and check out my website. And looking forward to be in touch with your friends and with you again, Paul.
Well, Gidon, thank you very much for sharing today.
Thank you, sir.